This is the second video on language acquisition and development. In the first part, I briefly mentioned how language is an innate process and it develops very well in the presence of secure bonding in relationships, very good exposure for children and varied experiences. I had also spoken about the dangers of excessive screen time and gadget usage which reduce language acquisition over a period of time. And this video, the second part, is specifically to help us understand the difference between receptive and expressive language and also to understand how the second language is acquired. Language has two components, the receptive component and the expressive component. Receptive language develops first and it will always be more than the expressive component. Receptive language is basically how much I understand. So it starts with gestures and facial expressions. Does the little child understand your facial expressions? Do they understand that you're angry or that you're happy? Do they understand when you point to a particular object or you show them something and they're able to follow where you're pointing or what you're showing them? The second aspect of receptive language is instruction. Do children understand and follow instructions? So when you ask them, go bring this tumbler, go and ask Amma to do this, are they able to follow through? They need not necessarily speak at this point, but do they follow those instructions? The third aspect of receptive language is, are they able to identify objects? So let's assume that you have a box of toys and you say, bring the ball from the box of toys. Is the child able to identify from amongst all of those objects there that this is the ball and this is what you're asking for? The next area is, do they understand a story? Now here, for example, I could use a puppet and I could ask the child or narrate a story. Does the child understand the story or do they just get distracted by the puppet or some aspect of the story that you're narrating? Do they understand small things like who is the main hero or the person in the story, what animals are being mentioned in the story and so on? Do they understand that? The next is that they should be able to answer questions. So when you ask them a particular question, are they able to answer coherently? Many children, because they don't have the receptive language required to understand a question, will go in a roundabout way and speak about things and answer at a tangent without actually making sense. You'll notice that some children even answer a question with another question or with a very exciting piece of information, but that's because they're not able to actually comprehend the question and use it effectively. In later years in the academic performance, you'll see these are the children that struggle to answer questions in a test, and these are the children that will memorize answers in a particular order because they're not able to comprehend the question and put answers together. So you'll see that they are memorizing 3 true, 2 false and so on, and then you'll notice that when you twist the question or you ask them a new question or you just reframe a particular question, they may not be able to answer because comprehension or receptive language is what is affected. The next aspect of receptive language is the ability to read from a book and skim for information and understand what they're reading, what we call reading comprehension. Many children, I've noticed, may be able to read because they've been exposed to flashcards or reading programs, but they may not have the comprehension component intact. So these constitute receptive language. What constitutes expressive language? Expressive language, like I mentioned, develops second, and it's always less than receptive language. And in this, there will be the verbal and the non-verbal components. The non-verbal aspects of expressive language develop first. In the non-verbal aspects, you will first have gestures. Does the child point to what they want? So if they want a bottle of water or a glass of water, are they able to point? Do they show you what they like? So are they able to use gestures as a form of communication? Secondly, do they use facial expressions while they communicate? So when they are excited, when they are happy, do they use facial expressions? Now many parents come and complain in therapy that the child is always using gestures. I normally don't ask you to discourage the use of gestures. In fact, it's a good stage in development. The next aspect, the verbal components of expressive language, they should be able to basically name objects. So when you show them a couple of toys or objects or something in their environment, they should be able to name those objects. The next aspect will be, are they able to ask questions? Do they have a general innate curiosity? Are they able to use their curiosity in the form of words and ask you about it? This is the next aspect of expressive language. And then, are they able to make comments? So they watched a movie or they saw a TV show and they're saying, I like this, I don't like this. Are they able to form an opinion or comment about something? There will be first the development of vocabulary. Are they able to pick up a lot of words? The next will be syntax, which is grammatical aspects of expressive language. The third will be semantics, or the meaning components of expressive language. And the fourth, which we call morphology. Morphology, or the shape. Shape is usually associated with reading and with writing. So when we take receptive and expressive language, there are so many components, which is why it's important not to rush through language acquisition. When it comes to communication, initially children pick up receptive language, they're able to comprehend. Then it moves to articulation. They need to be able to use the muscles sufficiently to produce the right kind of sounds, because otherwise they won't be heard. This is when expressive language develops. Once expressive language is developed, children move on to something very important, which is called pragmatic language. Pragmatic language is an extremely important skill because it is the language of social interaction or social situations. The last aspect in this is what we call symbolic language, the language that is used for reading and writing. Unfortunately, many parents, because we send children to school and schools expect children to be reading and writing at a particular time, we spend a lot of time, or rather waste a lot of time, focusing on reading and writing alone, which is symbolic language, before developing receptive language, articulation, expressive language and pragmatic language. These start showing up as gaps in learning later on in life. So you will notice that children have difficulties with reading comprehension, with spelling and so on. Many of them go on to get a diagnosis of learning disability, but these are all what we call acquired learning disabilities, meaning that they are not neurologically or genetically determined, but determined because of poor or faulty exposure. Since there are gaps in learning in the mother tongue or the first language that the child is exposed to, the exposure to the second language also begins to suffer. So in that sense, I need you to understand that how well the first language is acquired and established determines the quality of acquisition and development of the second language. The first stage in second language acquisition is called the pre-production phase. As soon as you introduce a new language to the child, for the first 6 months, the children are technically in the pre-production phase. In this, there is very poor comprehension. There will be no verbalizing. They are not going to be using words. Maximum, you will see them using a nod or saying no, or even be shocked because they don't understand what you're saying. In the pre-production phase, another thing that children do will be drawing. So they understand basic words like car or cat, and they will draw instead of expressing them verbally. The second stage of language acquisition for the second language will be what we call the early production phase, and the early production phase is usually between 6 months and 12 months of exposure. In this, there will be limited comprehension, and at most they will use 2-word responses, just like they did for the first language, but here the 2-word responses will be in the new language that they are acquiring. Very often they use familiar words and phrases, and if they have stories which have those familiar words, they are likely to use those words more often, or they will actually ask you to narrate those stories more often. The most striking feature of the early production phase is that you will notice that children tend to speak only in the present tense. They don't have access to future tense, continuous tense or the past tense. The next stage of language development, especially in the second language, is what we call the speech emergence phase, and this is between 1 year and 3 years of exposure to the new language. By this time, there is fairly good comprehension and children are able to use simple grammar and simple sentences, and apart from this, they are able to express themselves fairly well in the new language. And you'll notice that this is when, when you ask them questions, there are coherent answers and so on. Even in the exam, exams and all that, they're able to correlate question and answer. But what will be different here is that they may not understand complex usage like pun, homophone, homonyms and so on, and therefore those are areas we can support over a period of time. The last two phases of language acquisition in the second language will be the intermediary fluency and the advanced fluency levels, where they slowly move from basic expression into almost near native speech or expression, and those are between 3 and 5 years of exposure to a new language. Even the most talkative child, when it comes to the mother tongue, will go through what is called a brief silent phase when they are exposed to a new language. This is because they are paying attention to the phonemes in the new language, and many children go through about 6 to 8 months of the silent phase, and this is not something that you should get alarmed about. It's a normal stage of development. Then they move into basic usage and fluency, and it will start with 2-word sentences and few small expressions, and then the most important phase, which is called the backslide. A child who has picked up the right pronunciation, grammatical rules, will still go through a backslide where they experiment to see what happens when they speak incorrectly. Don't rush to correct. Continue to model correct speech, because remember, language is an innate process, and if we rush to correct, children become silent again. But if we continue to model correct speech, most children are able to make the corrections on their own, because they understand that the response is not consistent from the person listening to their speech. Very quickly, to summarize, what can we as adults, educators and parents do to help children acquire language, especially the second language? First, ensure that their development of the primary language is good. Make sure that they have good receptive skills, articulation, expressive skills, pragmatic skills before you rush into symbolic language. Because if you have this base right, we'll be able to build a second language with greater ease. Second, make sure that when your child is using gestures to communicate, don't discourage them. Make sure that you build language into the gestures. So if a child points out for water, don't say you have to say water, only then I will give it to you. Instead, what you could do is, you want the water, it's in a bottle. Let's pick up the bottle of water. I'm pouring the water in this glass. Would you like to take a sip of water? So you're using the word water that the child uses the gesture for, but in various sentences. This builds the receptive aspect of language, which can be slowly developed into the expressive aspect of language. Now coming to the next, what I call the speech stimulation activity. This is sort of like the cricket commentary. So when you're watching a cricket match or a tennis match, you notice that somebody is going to bowl, he's a leg spinner, or he's going to serve and he has to hold serve or something, but still the commentator gives you a complex narration of what is happening. This enhances the experience that the person is having. Similarly, when you're doing something at home, make sure that you are adding a commentary aspect to it. So Appa is washing these tomatoes. We just brought these tomatoes from the market. We're going to make a nice rasam with these tomatoes. The tomatoes are washed in cold water. So what you're doing is you're building a lot of new sentences. And remember, I told you that for language learning, exposure is very important. And so when we continue to speak in the right way, these build into the receptive aspects of language, and they become stimulatory in nature, and children pick up those words over a period of time. The next aspect is play. Make sure that they have a lot of peer group play, and with different groups if possible, because when they work with different groups, when they play with different groups, they have the access to different kinds of behaviors and conversations that may be limited if they are only with one person. The next aspect that I normally ask parents to focus on, please read to your children and have meaningful conversations as often as you can. Make sure that reading is a habit that you embrace as well, because children model whatever we do as adults, and reading is a very important aspect of that. When you have enriching conversations in different situations, that again builds into the language acquisition component. Beyond all this, there are several other activities which I will share in subsequent videos, but I'm hoping that these two videos were useful for you.